You wanted to add something, Rick?
Well, what Adam hit on was really a good point that applies to people in this room, that email is still an important part of social media. And there's new tools that are coming out that are combining the ability to merge your Facebook and your Twitter and all your communications in social media with your email list, so they actually can live in one screen and one tool. So email is still a critical part of your business. It doesn't replace it, or it just complements it.
Jake, any secrets or insights?
Yeah, for us, for Foursquare, from the beginning, the social media strategy was really about being open and engaging and talking to customers directly. So Dennis and Naveen, the founders, they still to this day will respond to tweets. We try and get to as many of the tweets that we can that are directed at Foursquare, or one of them directly, to have someone actually respond to and address someone's question. So the key thing for us is that we've kind of created this brand. We're very open. We listen to people's ideas, and that perpetuates itself.
And the more engagement you have with the community, the more top of mind your service offering or
yeah, and it really helped us to create a unique brand.
Okay, excellent. How many of you interact with your social media from your handheld device, from mobile? It's pretty huge. Are you thinking that mobile is going to be the primary touch point as it relates to social media going forward versus today? Anyone?
Oh yeah, definitely. There was a conference in San Francisco called GeoLoco, and all the location-based provider tool builders all targeted 2014 as the year that we really get over this hump where it reaches mass acceptance. So yeah, mobile is definitely, we're just starting to realize what's possible.
Yeah, both in terms of content and commerce. I think there weren't that many brick and mortar folks in here, but I think something we're increasingly seeing is people making decisions about where they're going to go using their smartphone, GPS enabled, looking up businesses on Yelp or Foursquare, seeing what has the best reviews, seeing what's closest, and going. I think that's completely where things are headed. If you look at some of the numbers also, eBay just said that they've passed $2 billion in revenue a year from mobile commerce. Amazon's passed $1 billion. And increasingly, that technology is becoming easier and easier to integrate. You need to start thinking about your company's mobile web presence, and if you can let people shop and buy products through the mobile web, not just the website.
So for those of you who aren't aware of this, there is an optimization that you have to do to your online offering so that it is ideally suited to a format like this. That's a critical thing that you've got to do, and that's where your marketplace may be making key decisions. Mm-hmm. That's very important.
Yeah, what's cool about a tool like Foursquare is your visitors to your business, they do a little bit with their phone, but they get a lot back in the form of tips, offers, what have you.
Is there any general rule or principle, or is it totally all over the board in terms of how often you send out information, tweets, or posts to your page?
I mean, I think there's some definite rules around it. I mean, I think one mistake that a lot of both companies, people, media companies make is that they kind of leave their Twitter feed to automation, and what you'll see is like 15 links and articles in a row. And you need to think about how users are actually using these tools, because
guilty.
Yeah. What they do is they stack things in chronological order. So you'll see, like when you go to your Twitter homepage, you see the most 15 recent updates. If they're all from the same person and 1 out of 15 is valuable or none out of 15, you're going to unfollow that person. So what we've done as a company is really looked at how the frequency of what we post impacts things like follows, impacts things like click-throughs on links. And that's really kind of guided our strategy. And we're now very, very systematic about when we post our links to Twitter, when we post them to Facebook. For example, on Twitter, it's like we try not to post everything more than once every 15 or 20 minutes, which is probably a lot more than a typical business should be posting stuff, but we're a media company, so
right.
We're constantly publishing articles. In Facebook, we space it out like an hour, hour and a half, and that's all just based on analytics and looking at how those decisions impact our audience.
Any further comments?
Yeah, just talking with people online rather than at them. It's really got to be a two-way. And Adam's right on. You can go and look at someone's feed and see if they're actually just doing a one-way broadcast or if they're actually taking an interest and providing some sort of value in customer service and getting to know the humans on the other side of the keyboard.
As a form of warning to our social media aspirational group here, What's one thing, maybe over-automating is one thing. What are one thing from each of you that you definitely do not want to do with your social media? What's a big no-no?
I think you never want to lose your brand. I think you want to be really true to who your business is and what your voice is, and don't be afraid to be true to that. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Social media, I think, is a lot more forgiving than maybe other forms of media, and as long as you're out there and continually engaging with people and you're sticking to your brand, you'll be good.
Yeah, another thing I think is you don't want to put out bad information. I think there can be an urgency to retweet something that's interesting or big news. Once a lot of people thought Jared from Subway had died because of a tweet I put out, which was
Wow.
proved incorrect, and people made fun of me for it and still do. So I think maybe that's a little bit more of a media example than a business example, but I think it's making sure your content is relevant and accurate. I mean, I think an important thing that every small business needs to think about is how they can provide their consumers not just with information about them, but with content that's relevant and interesting to their topic. And just verifying that that content's good and accurate and useful for your audience, I think, is an important thing that any business can do.
I would say two big don'ts. Don't type in all caps on Twitter. And then
That's shouting, right?
yeah, that's delete. And also don't be overly promotional. I mean, actually do everything but promote yourself.
Be authentic.
Well, be authentic, but if it's just, I guess the rule is 1 out of 10 postings can be promotional, but 9 out of 10 should be conversational and directed, or you're really focusing on the other person.
Okay, very good. Obviously, social media is very heavily dominated by something called Facebook today, and then Twitter is huge. There's LinkedIn out there also, which has a business feel to it. Is there a world with merit in social media? I know we all have opinions, strong opinions about this. I'm asking the question this way intentionally. Is there a world of merit beyond Facebook and Twitter for a small business to achieve its social media objectives? Or is that where they should be concentrating? Jake?
Obviously, I'm going to say yes, there is a world with merit beyond them. For us, our focus at Foursquare is tying what you're doing online to the real world. Right, so checking into a venue on Foursquare, when you go there, it's when you're in the store and when you're there, and that becomes a really cool way to engage from a merchant perspective and from a brand perspective. You get some contextual relevancy that you don't get when you're sitting behind your computer, and people are opting in to engage with you. They want to find out information about where they're going and what offers there are and what's out there. So for us, that's what we're all about. That's our DNA.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Facebook and Twitter are the two biggest platforms, but I think what you're seeing now are so many applications that integrate with them in interesting ways. Foursquare, for instance, when you check in, that can be broadcast to Twitter and Facebook. So even if your Foursquare audience is only 50 people, if your Twitter and Facebook audience is 1,000, they're going to see that check-in, and that's going to drive traffic to your store. Oh, Jake's at this restaurant. I'm going to go check it out sometime. And I think that's a really interesting piece. And you also need to remember
the integration across all of the social media platforms is extraordinary.
And you also need to remember that some of this stuff, especially Facebook, is not accessible to Google search. A lot of the stuff that comes up first is Yelp reviews, a Foursquare venue page, and making sure you own that content or at least responding to it. If the first thing that someone sees in Google search is a negative review of your business on Yelp and you haven't addressed it, that's a big problem.
Yep. So Yelp falls into this category essentially of social media. It's very ratings and reviews driven, and you have the opportunity to engage with people where they're giving feedback on your business. I want to make sure that we take a little time for questions. We have a microphone in the back. We have a hand raised in the back. Go ahead to your left, Alexandria.